Let's start with the truth. The problem is not that you are lazy. The problem is not that you lack ambition. The problem is not even that you're tired. The real problem is this: you are drowning in noise, and no one taught you how to breathe in silence. We live in an age of infinite stimulation, and yet we feel empty. An age where a single hour of silence feels unbearable. An age where our dopamine is hijacked by blinking screens, endless scrolls, and false urgencies. And now we are surprised when we cannot sit still, when we cannot focus, when we feel lost, anxious, scattered. But I will tell you what no one else dares to say. You are not unmotivated. You are overstimulated. And in this overstimulation, your will is slowly dying. The trap of constant distraction. Do you ever wonder why it's so hard to finish a book, to focus on your work, to hold a single thought in your mind without interruption? It is not because you are weak. It is because your environment is designed methodically, surgically, to scatter you. Marcus Aurelius once warned, "You must build your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." But how can you act deliberately when your attention is being robbed every moment? Every ping, every notification, every feed refresh, it fragments your will. It shatters your focus. And with shattered focus, you no longer move with intention. You drift. And drifting is the death of motivation. We have trained ourselves to be distracted. The ancient Stoics understood the architecture of the human soul. They knew that without control over one's emotions, one's impulses, and most importantly, one's attention, no man is truly free. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." But ask yourself honestly, have you been your own master? Or have you handed your mind over to cheap entertainment, empty pleasures, and borrowed opinions? You are not alone. We all fall into this pit, but we must climb out together. Because here is the truth. You are not broken. You are misused. And to recover, you don't need more motivation. You need less noise, less chaos, less input. You need stillness. The soul's hunger for silence. Viktor Frankl endured the Holocaust. He saw suffering that we cannot imagine. And yet, in the midst of that horror, he discovered something profound. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space, the one between stimulus and response, it is your sacred ground. But overstimulation destroys that space. It floods your mind before you can even think. You become reactive, impulsive, lost. Motivation cannot survive in such a landscape, because motivation requires depth, and depth cannot grow in shallow waters. If you feel numb, if you feel like nothing excites you anymore, if you can't focus or create or dream, then the world has hijacked your space, and it's time to take it back.
Overstimulation kills purpose. The Stoics were never afraid of hardship. They were afraid of waste, of wasted time, wasted will, wasted life. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." You waste life not in a dramatic fall, but in quiet, overstimulated decay. 1 hour on your phone. One more scroll, one more reel, each of them Small, harmless, but deadly in totality, because they leave you emptied, not just of time, but of drive, of desire, of clarity. Overstimulation creates the illusion of productivity, but the reality of paralysis. You begin to feel that you're doing so much while accomplishing nothing. You feel restless yet static, busy but unfulfilled, awake but unconscious. This is not laziness. This is a spiritual sickness. The modern world feeds on your distraction. Let's be honest, the system is not built for your inner peace. It is built for your attention, because attention is the new currency, and they are richer when you are weaker. You are bombarded with options, but deprived of meaning. You are offered escape, but denied silence. You are surrounded by noise, but starving for depth. And in this environment, your mind is not free. It is fragmented, divided, weakened. But there is a way out, a hard way, but a real one. The path is discipline. The weapon is attention. The prize is freedom. We must reclaim our focus, with violence if necessary. Yes, violence. Not against the world, but against the false self that craves distraction. The part of us that fears silence, the part that reaches for the phone, the part that runs from stillness. That part must die. And in its death, we can be reborn into a life of clarity and purpose. Epictetus said it best. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. The overstimulated mind is enslaved to what is outside of its control. But the focused mind, the trained mind, it is unstoppable. We begin with small steps. Start with silence. 5 minutes, 10, then 30. Put the phone in another room. Delete the apps that consume you. Go outside without headphones. Stare into space. Think. Reflect. You will feel uncomfortable, restless, bored. Good. That is the addiction leaving your system. Do not run from this discomfort. Welcome it, because it is proof that you are healing. And when your mind clears, even just a little, you will remember what it feels like to be alive. Not to consume, but to create. Not to escape, but to endure. Not to drift, but to direct. Part 2. The War Within the Will. Let us speak clearly now. You are in a battle. Not a metaphorical one, a real one. But it is not fought on battlefields. It is fought inside you, in the silence between your thoughts. This is not a war of violence. It is a war of will. And every time you pick up your phone instead of your purpose, every time you scroll instead of study, every time you avoid rather than endure, you lose ground. And those losses compound until one day you find yourself surrounded by the enemy. An enemy made not of men, but of impulses, of distractions, of habits that hollow your soul. And you ask, why am I not motivated? The answer is brutal but honest, because your will has been quietly defeated, and it's time to take it back. The overstimulated mind is not free. In the Stoic tradition, there is one virtue that towers above the rest: autarkia, self-sufficiency, the ability to stand untouched by external storms,
to not require validation, to not be shaken by events, to not need endless stimulation to feel alive. But overstimulation destroys this. Why? Because it ties your peace to things outside of you. It creates dependence on novelty. It trains you to feel bored with reality. And when boredom becomes intolerable, reality becomes unbearable. So you escape, you distract, you consume. You reach for noise because silence has become terrifying. And here lies the paradox. The more you escape reality, the more reality punishes you. And the more you punish yourself for not feeling motivated, when in fact you've just become addicted to escape. We were not designed to be constantly entertained. We were designed to endure, to reflect, to build. Overstimulation makes life feel dull. Not because life is dull, but because your nervous system has been hijacked. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to reclaim yourself. Viktor Frankl and the depth of endurance. Frankl survived Auschwitz not by escaping the horrors around him, but by mastering the only thing he could control: his response. He did not find motivation in comfort. He found purpose in meaning. And meaning, unlike motivation, is not fragile. He wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." The overstimulated mind loses its why, because its attention is so fractured that it cannot stay still enough to remember. That's why so many people feel numb. They aren't missing purpose. They're too distracted to see it. If you feel like nothing matters, if you feel like you're drifting, pause. Look around. What you seek is not far. It is just hidden beneath layers of noise. Purpose doesn't scream. It whispers. And to hear it, you must go silent.
The Stoic return to stillness. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Doesn't that sound like your modern mind? Always multitasking, always on to the next thing, always thinking about 3 problems while solving none. But the Stoic is different. He is deliberate. He does not chase stimulation. He chooses his inputs with care, like a warrior choosing his weapons. He knows this truth. Every input is a seed, and what you water will grow. So if you water distraction, you will grow confusion. If you water fear, you will grow paralysis. But if you water discipline, you will grow inner freedom. We must stop consuming like slaves and begin choosing like sovereigns. Your mind is your temple. Guard it like one. We have forgotten the art of enduring boredom. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be bored, truly bored, without reaching for something? Boredom is not the enemy. It is the door to clarity. But today, we treat boredom like a virus. We run from it, and in doing so, we run from the part of ourselves that creates meaning. Overstimulation robs you of the boredom required to go deep, and depth is where meaning lives. You want motivation? Then learn to endure the silence long enough for truth to speak. We are not machines built for constant dopamine. We are souls. We are builders. We are thinkers. We are not supposed to feel motivated 24/7. We are meant to carry weight, to wrestle with the void, to forge character from discomfort. And if you can endure that, Motivation is no longer necessary because you will have something stronger: conviction. The death of pleasure as purpose. Pleasure is not evil, but when it becomes your compass, you are lost. Epictetus said, "Freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it." Pleasure is a poor master, and overstimulation is just the cheap, shallow version of pleasure that demands constant feeding. You eat and you're hungry again in minutes. You scroll and feel emptier than when you began. Why? Because none of it touches the soul. It only numbs the pain of being aimless. And this is the modern crisis. We are addicted to numbing, not living. We are terrified of silence, not failure. We seek dopamine, not depth. But depth, that's where meaning grows. And meaning is the only sustainable fuel for the human spirit. We begin again through simplicity. The Stoic way is not complicated, it is brutally simple. But the modern mind rejects simplicity because simplicity is hard. It requires sacrifice. It requires subtraction. It requires confronting the self without filters. But in that confrontation, you find gold. You find clarity. You find strength. You find that you never lacked motivation, only focus, only attention, only silence. So begin again. Wake up early without checking your phone. Sit in silence without the need for stimulation. Read something deep, slowly. Write your thoughts with care. Train your body with discipline, not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. Excitement fades, but necessity endures. And discipline in the end will do what motivation never could.
Part 3. Emotional chaos and the collapse of the soul. Let's descend deeper. We've spoken of attention, of overstimulation, of distraction. But now we confront something more terrifying: emotional chaos. Because overstimulation does not just scatter your attention, it fractures your emotions. It destabilizes your inner world. It amplifies trivial feelings and suppresses noble ones. It makes you feel fragile over nothing and numb to everything that truly matters. Ask yourself, have you ever felt overwhelmed by things that, deep down, you knew were meaningless? Have you ever felt numb in moments that should have moved you? Have you ever watched your own emotional reactions and thought, this isn't me? You're not broken, but your soul is overfed and undernourished. You are not unmotivated. You are emotionally exhausted from overstimulation. The nervous system was not built for this. Your mind, your body is ancient. It was forged in stillness, in solitude, in hardship. It was shaped by wind and stone and fire, not by flashing lights, digital noise, and endless options. And yet here we are, living like gods, feeling like ghosts. Your nervous system is in constant defense mode, responding to every buzz, alert, update, message, sound, scroll, post. And in this endless cascade of stimuli, there is no space to breathe. You cannot build discipline in chaos. You cannot build peace in stimulation. You cannot build fortitude in convenience. The more connected you are to the digital world, the more disconnected you become from your inner world. The soul begins to panic, and that panic wears many masks: boredom, anxiety, numbness, anger, fatigue, laziness. But all of them are symptoms of one disease, the soul's refusal to live under tyranny. The Stoic stance in the face of emotion. The ancient philosophers did not seek to feel less. They sought to control what they felt and how they responded. Emotions were not enemies, but wild horses that needed reins, not chains. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And overstimulation feeds that imagination. It inflames it, it magnifies it. Suddenly, everything is urgent, everything is dramatic, everything is emotional. So we overreact, we spiral, we retreat into escapism. But the Stoic stands still. He does not flinch at discomfort. He does not fear the absence of stimulation. He welcomes it, because it is in that absence, in that void, that real emotion is forged. Not the shallow emotions of social validation and dopamine hits, but the deep ones: honor, responsibility, duty, purpose. These are not entertaining, but they are eternal. And we, if we are to survive this age, must choose the eternal. The prison of the comfort-addicted mind. Let's speak of comfort. Not the kind that restores you, but the kind that rots you. The comfort of mindless repetition, the comfort of algorithmic pleasure, the comfort of avoiding your real life by simulating it online. This comfort is poison. It feeds the body but starves the soul. It creates the illusion of progress while delivering none. It keeps you in a warm prison where your spirit is slowly sedated. Viktor Frankl saw human beings endure starvation, humiliation, loss. And yet he saw some of them grow stronger. He saw others collapse. And the difference? Meaning, not comfort, never comfort. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. End quote. Frankl. And overstimulation is that situation. You will not fix it with another app. You will not solve it with a productivity hack. You must transform yourself.
We must become warriors of restraint. This path, the true path, begins not with adding more, but removing. The Stoics knew that what is not necessary is the first thing to throw overboard. So ask yourself now, what must go? What are you feeding your mind that has no purpose? What voices are filling your ears with garbage? What content are you watching that numbs your clarity? Make no mistake, you become what you consume. And if you consume overstimulation, you will become weak. You will lose the ability to choose. You will lose the ability to think. You will lose the ability to feel anything real. You will become a slave to impulse, to novelty, to trends. And Stoicism, this path of steel, it demands the opposite: restraint, simplicity, fortitude, depth. We are not victims. We are undisciplined. Here is a hard truth. If you are overstimulated, it is because you allowed yourself to be. Not because you're evil, not because you're worthless, but because you were never taught that discipline is more powerful than motivation. Motivation is what you feel when life is easy. Discipline is what you build when life is hard. And in this digital age, where every weakness is monetized, every impulse is triggered, every thought is interrupted. Discipline is your rebellion. We must become spiritual warriors, armed not with weapons, but with boundaries, not with rage, but with silence, not with speed, but with stillness. That is the Stoic way. That is our way. The protocol of the inner rebellion. So now we ask, what do we do? Let this not be just another video. Let this not be another moment of inspiration followed by inaction. Let us act. Here is your protocol. 1. Silence every morning. Do not wake up and look at your phone. Wake up and face the silence. Journal. Reflect. Breathe. Walk. Train your nervous system to endure boredom again. This is not self-care. This is war preparation. 2. Cut one stimulation source every week. Delete one app. Mute one notification thread. Replace 1 hour of digital input with physical activity. Not all at once. Gradually, consistently. 3. Single task with brutality. When you do something, do just that. One task, one thought, one aim. Over time, this builds a mental fortress around your will. 4. Build rituals that anchor your day. Stoics were creatures of structure. Build rituals, not routines, that are sacred. Rituals of reading, training, reflection. Rituals that remind you, I am not a slave to my impulses. 5. Endure discomfort like a warrior. You will crave the scroll. You will want the noise. You will feel agitated. Good. Let it burn. Every moment you resist overstimulation, you are reclaiming your mind. Conclusion: the return to fire. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not unmotivated. You are overstimulated. And beneath the layers of distraction, chaos, and digital anesthesia, there is a fire. Your fire. It has not gone out. It is waiting. But it does not respond to comfort. It does not respond to pleasure. It responds to purpose. It responds to restraint. It responds to the stillness forged through discipline. We are not here to feel good. We are here to become strong. And strength is not built in ease. It is built in the choice every moment to suffer what is necessary, to resist what is shallow, and to become what is eternal. You are not overstimulated anymore. You are awake.